Hi, welcome back. Today I will be doing something a little bit different from what I've been doing before. Back in episode 4, I talked about the Malay tale of the Pig King, which is based on a Hikayat Raja Babi. If you haven't already seen that episode, I'll put a link in the description box below so you can have a look. When we put my picture book, The Malay Tale of the Pig King, together, we knew that there was a European version of the Pig King. Now, I had read the European version years and years ago in a book by Giovanni, Francesco, Straparola. The book is called The Pleasant Nights, or sometimes it's called The Facetious Nights, and it was written in the 16th century. To be honest, I had quite forgotten the gist of the European Pig King story because I do read many different versions of fairy tales from all around the world. But recently I came across this story and it occurred to me that there were some differences and also similarities between the two Pig King stories. So I thought it would be quite interesting and fun to do a video comparing and contrasting between these two stories. Why am I doing this? I mentioned at the outset that I will be mainly focusing on Nusantara fairy tales. However, as I said in my introduction, I believe that fairy tales are living, breathing entities. Fairy tales can travel, they can adapt to suit the needs of the society where that story is being told. This is the reason why for some fairy tales, I will compare and contrast similar stories from different countries. I thought perhaps the Italian Pig King story will be different because in Europe, pigs do not have this haram element that makes them controversial in our part of the world. It would be interesting and fun to explore this aspect. So if you're ready, sit back, relax, chill while I tell you Straparola's version of the Pig King. Once upon a time, there was a king and queen who longed for a child, but no child came. One day, the queen decided to go for a walk in her garden, and she suddenly became quite tired, and she decided to lie down for a rest in the garden. I guess that's what they do in Italy. So she was sleeping on the grass under the tree when 3 superior fairies happened to come by. They gazed upon the sleeping queen and they felt sorry for her. They knew that she desperately wanted a child. The first fairy gave her a gift. She said to the sleeping queen, "You will bear a son." The second fairy stepped up and she said, "Your son shall be born with every virtue under the sun." And then the third fairy, who was, I think, a little bit naughty, she came up to the queen and she said, "Your son will be born a pig. He will have the ways and manners of a pig and he will remain in such a state until he marries 3 times. I don't know why. So for some strange reason, this third fairy decided that might be quite fun for the queen to give birth to a pig. So the fairies flew off. The queen woke up. A week later, she felt a bit odd, a bit ill, and she found out that she was pregnant. The king and queen were happy, of course, but then when the son is actually born, they discover that the queen has given birth to a pig. The king is surprised. He decides that he wants to kill this pig because it's quite shameful. He doesn't want people to know that the queen gave birth to a pig. But then he has second thoughts. He looks at the pig and he decides, oh, this is actually my son. He has my royal blood running through his veins. We will raise him. Years and years later, the son grows up. He begins to take up the mannerisms of a human. He can walk like a human. He can talk like a human. But sometimes he lapses. He gives in to his inner pig, especially when he sees puddles of mud. He is fascinated with mud. And when he sees a puddle of mud, he loves to jump in and just wallow in the mud and roll around in the mud. Then he'll come home and smear all his filth and grime all over his mother, all over the carpet and furniture in the palace. He's disgusting. So one day, after a day of wallowing in the mud, the Pig King comes home and he tells his mother, "Mother, I want to get married. Find me a wife." The queen is worried. She's like, "Son, no, I don't think anyone is going to marry you because you're a pig, and no one wants to marry a pig, even though you are a prince. The pig king says to the mother, I don't care. Find me a wife. And he whines and pesters her until she finally gives in. She finds a woman who has 3 daughters. Now, they are destitute. These people are poor. They are starving. The queen thinks maybe if I give them money, they'll let one of their daughters marry my son. So she asks the mother of these 3 daughters, and the mother really doesn't want to give up her daughters to a pig, but they're so poor that she agrees. The first daughter goes to the palace to be married to the pig king. The daughter is distraught. She's upset. She doesn't want to marry a pig. And when she sees the pig king, it's even worse. He's disgusting. He's an animal. He's a beast. But she says, okay, fine, I'll marry him. But that doesn't mean I have to be happy about it. That night, when the pig king comes to the bedchambers, he overhears her talking to herself. She says, oh, my husband is disgusting. He's a pig. I don't want to sleep with him. I'm going to kill him tonight. And when he hears this, he decides that he will kill her first. And that is exactly what he does. He kills the first daughter. The next day, chaos ensues. It's scandalous. They can't believe that the pig king has actually killed his wife. The queen is so upset. But then the scandal dies down, of course. The pig king goes up to his mother and says, Mother, find me another wife. I want to get married again. And the mother says, no, 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 I can't let you get married. You're a beast. You killed your first wife. Who will possibly allow you to marry their daughter? But again, this demanding, arrogant pig pesters his mother. He says, no, 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 you must find me a wife. Otherwise, I'm going to hurt you. So now he actually threatens his mother. So the queen has no choice. She goes back to the woman and says, please, 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 can my son marry your second daughter? And even though the woman does not want to let go of her daughter, they are starving, they're poor, they're destitute. So she agrees. The second daughter goes to the palace that night. They get married. That night, the pig king comes to her bedchamber and again overhears her talking to herself. She's saying to herself, oh, I can't believe I'm married to a pig. He's disgusting. He's gross. I don't want to sleep with him. I'm going to kill him. In order to protect himself, the pig king kills her as well. So the same thing happens. There's a scandal and the queen is so upset. She falls ill. She stays in bed all day. But then the pig king goes up to his mother and he says, Mother, find me a wife. I need a wife now. The mother says, no, I'm not going to find you a wife. You are a monster. You kill your wives. The pig king says, if you don't find me a wife, I'm going to kill you. So now he actually threatens his mother. So she has no choice. She goes up to the woman. She apologizes. She cries. She says, please, 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 can my son marry your third daughter? The third daughter is around. She listens to the queen and she says to her mother, Mother, don't worry. I will willingly marry the pig king. The third daughter goes to the palace. She gets married to the pig king. He is happy because she is gorgeous. And that night he's very excited when he goes to the bedchamber. This time, however, the third daughter invites the pig king in. She smiles at him, welcomes him with open arms. She invites him into her bed. She puts the blanket over him. She draws the curtain and they have a lovely night together. And the pig king is happy because finally he found a woman who will accept him for what he is. This goes on. The pig king is happy. We don't know whether the third daughter is happy. Finally, the pig king tells his wife, I'm going to tell you a secret. He takes off his pig skin to reveal himself as a handsome, gorgeous prince. At this point, she is really happy. Her husband turns out to be this gorgeous man. She's now rich. Everything is fine. The pig king tells her, this is a secret. Don't tell anybody. The girl is so happy. She is thrilled that her husband is handsome and is actually a man, not a pig. And the queen notices this. The queen asks her, "Are you really happy? Are you okay with my son?" She assures the queen, "Don't worry, your son is fine. If you want to know, come to the bedchamber tonight. I'll show you." That night, the queen and the king sneak into their son's bedchamber to spy on the son and the daughter-in-law, which is a little bit dodgy, but never mind. They sneak in, the pig king arrives, and he takes off his pig skin, and they see that their son is actually a man, a human being, and they are so happy. They take the pig skin and they burn it, and this breaks the curse. The pig king turns into a man, and they all live happily ever after. The end. So what do you think of this story? It's quite nuts, right? So this story was, I don't think it was written by Straparola. It was probably, he was a fairy tale collector, so he probably found this story and rewrote it. This writer, Giovanni Francesco Straparola, he lived between 1480 to around 1558. He was an Italian writer and collector of fairy tales, like me, from Italy, from a place called Caravaggio. Not much is known about him. He is said to be the originator of the literary form of the fairy tale. His main work is this collection. It's called Le Piacevoli Notti, I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, or The Pleasant Nights, or The Facetious Nights. This collection has 75 fairy tales contained within a framed narrative. So let's look at the comparisons between this Italian pig king and the Malay pig king. Firstly, I think the main similarity, of course, is that there is a prince who is born in the body of a pig in both versions. However, the reason for this event is different in each story. In the Nusantara version, it was caused by the curse of the 41 ex-wives of the king. In the Italian version, it was caused by a gift that was bestowed by a passing fairy. In European folklore, fairies can be either good or bad. They often display whimsical, mischievous, sometimes prankish behavior. If you meet a fairy, you never know where you stand. They could either help you, they could save your life, or they could kill you or curse you. On the other hand, fairies in Nusantara folklore, we often refer to them as Tuan Putri. They more often than not help those in need. They help those who are good and pure. So they're not as prankish as the European versions. In the Malay tale of the Pig King, the fairy here, who is called Tuan Putri di Pucuk Puding, she actually recognized that the little pig king was under a curse. She decides to help him. The second difference between the two pig king stories would be the role of the parents. The Italian pig king was actually nurtured in the palace. He was raised by his own parents. He received, training. He received education. He received lots of love and affection, which is not what our little Malay pig king got at all. In the Malay version, all the palace advisors, everyone advised the king that he had to banish his son because he was a haram animal. So as soon as the little Malay pig king was born, he was cast out. He had to find his own way in the world. He had to find his own way to break the curse. So what's the third difference? The Italian pig king more or less starts life as an infant. He has to be taken care of, he has to be nurtured, he has to be educated. When he grows up, he learns how to speak, he learns how to walk like a human being. However, he would sometimes lapse and give in to his pig tendencies. Even though on the surface he may act and talk like a human being, you know that deep down he has the mannerisms of a pig. He had poor standards of hygiene. He would come home and make a mess everywhere. He was pretty demanding. He was pretty arrogant. He's constantly whining and pestering his mother to find him a wife. And this makes him unattractive. The Malay pig king, on the other hand, we are told that as soon as he is born, he leaps up, he bows graciously to everyone, he smiles, he starts to recite poetry. He speaks eloquently, he's got good manners. We are also told that he's handsome, His skin and body are dazzling and shining. He has been described as shining with 7 colors. His fur sparkles like jewels. He is even said to wear precious jewels on his toes and around his neck. So he's quite a refined character compared to the Italian Pig King. The next comparison has to do with how to break the curse. Italian Pig King actually knows how to break the curse, or we are basically told at the beginning how this curse is going to be broken. He has to marry 3 times. The Malay Pig King, on the other hand, gets no clue whatsoever about how to break this curse. He has to stumble on in life and figure it out for himself. Finally, the last comparison has to do with personality and behavior. I think I touched upon this a bit earlier on. So the Italian Pig King, he's demanding. He is kind of like overbearing. He's arrogant. He keeps pestering his mother to find him a wife. When she refuses, he threatens her with death. That's quite serious. He is no Prince Charming. His character, in fact, is quite misogynistic. He outright murders his first 2 wives on the dodgy reason that, they're going to kill him. I mean, they were probably just talking out loud, they were frustrated with what life had to offer. Of course, the Malay King also killed a lot of people in the story, especially during the battle scene, but he never ever killed his wife. This last point brings me nicely to my final thoughts on the Italian Pig King, and that is its treatment of women. This fairy tale falls within the category of the beastly bridegroom, and examples of this kind of story is, of course, Beauty and the Beast and also Hans the Hedgehog by the brothers Grimm. What is this story really about? I think this story is about desperate women who are forced into arranged marriages to secure the financial standing of their families. And this is what happened in the 16th century. The underlying message of this story seems to be that women who disobey or fight back or even express displeasure at their lot in life, they will be punished. In this example, we're talking about the first 2 sisters who were killed because they simply said, I don't like my husband, I want to kill him. So these type of women will be punished. But the obedient women who toe the line, who accept their lot in life, i.e. the arranged marriages that are forced upon them, these women will be rewarded. The third daughter is rewarded with a handsome husband and with riches. Obviously, this is a problematic message to convey to women. The usual animal spouse stories, the beastly bridegroom stories, features a beast, an animal so vile. In this case, it's a pig who is so terrifying, he's so vile. But then through magic or through a lift in the curse, we see that this beast was actually the good guy all along. We see his true colors. However, Straparola's Pig King has none of these fine attributes. He is not good in any way. Here we have a man who has questionable hygiene standards. He is arrogant, he is overbearing, he is demanding. He threatens his mother with death. He actually kills 2 innocent women because they refuse to accept him. So this is quite a horrible story. It promotes violence against women, subservience of women, and it views women as mere property. However, bearing in mind that this fairy tale was written in the 16th century, it's not surprising really that this story reflects the values of the time. Compare that with the Malay tale of the Pig King. I'm not, of course, suggesting that there's no problem with our version of the Pig King. The father, the king, of course, marries 41 wives and then unceremoniously dumps them when one of his wives gets pregnant. In the Nusantara version, there is, of course, that polygamous marriage element that adds to the story. However, I just feel that the writer in the Nusantara version was perhaps a little bit more sensitive, more careful in his treatment of women. For example, he let those angry wives get their revenge. He let them curse the king. There were no repercussions on these 41 ex-wives. When the king courts the Jinn princess, she appears to reciprocate his feelings. She appears to like him. She wants to marry him, but she's already engaged. There's no question of a forced marriage here. Later in the story, when the Pig King goes on a rampage and he scares the 7 princesses until they fall ill, he actually feels remorse and goes back to help revive the princesses. So our version of the Pig King seems a bit more sympathetic and a bit more positive in its treatment of women. So what do you think of this story? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please do leave a comment below. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please do like and subscribe to my channel. Do let me know if you'd like more episodes like this where I compare and contrast different fairy tales from different countries. Next week, we will look at one of the most famous Nusantara fairy tales, the Tales of Sang Kancil. I'll see you next week.